Good morning everyone, this is Mike.
And this is Pauline E.
And we start off the Society News for Friday the 6th of April 2018. On Tuesday the strollers will be meeting for a Quor Abbey to Fishbourne stroll. The minibus will be leaving Millbrook House at 9:15 a.m. They will meet for coffee at Quor Abbey Cafe at approximately 10:45 a.m. The walk will set off from the cafe. Lunch will follow afterwards at the Fishbourne Inn just after midday. The Ride Swimming Group are swimming this Tuesday the 10th of April in Ride at the Waterside Pool. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the group, please call the Society first to notify us of your swimming ability. On Wednesday, the weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this Wednesday the 11th of April. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea, as well as a piece of cake. The Wednesday social group will be meeting on Wednesday the 11th of April at 2 p.m. in Millbrook House. The entertainment this week is a visit from Gary Harbour from the Isle of Wight Zoo. He was very popular when he visited last time, and he will be bringing some residents of the zoo for the group to meet. The group lasts approximately 45 minutes, which is then followed by tea or coffee and cake. The Wednesday social is open to everyone, not just members. And on Thursday, the Thursday social group will be meeting on the 12th of April at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can join in with the conversation and knit if you wish. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? The next golf session will be taking place on Sunday, the 29th of April at 10 a.m. on the driving range at Westridge Golf Centre in Ryde. Anyone interested can just turn up on the day for 1 hour of golf with an instructor for the group, followed by a cup of tea and chat afterwards in the cafe. The cost is £3 per person. Are you a crime fiction fan or a budding author? How would you like to combine the two? Join international best-selling authors Carol and Bob Bridgestock for an evening entitled Murder Behind the Scenes. The event will showcase the television programme Written in Blood, episode 7, which featured R.C. Bridgestock. After the programme, there will be a question and answer session over a drink and nibbles. The event is being held at Riverside Centre, The Quay, Newport, on Thursday, 19th of April 2018 at 6 p.m. As well as Carol and Bob's presence, there will also be entertainment from Emily Scotcher, professional makeup artist Pamela Clare, and Vectis Radio's Maggie and Calvin Curry. Tickets are £6, which includes a drink and nibbles. Book now by calling Chris Kane on 522205 or email admin@iwsb.org.uk. Local volunteers from the Guide Dogs charity will be visiting a number of venues over the next few months, talking about the work of the charity and how you can be involved. They will be at Cowes Library on the 21st of April, Sundown Library on the 23rd of June, Ryde Library on the 21st of July, and Ventnor Library on the 18th of August. All the library venue times will be 10:30 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. You can also find them at Riverfest on Newport Quay on the 19th of May, 11 a.m. till 3 p.m, and the Isle of Wight Community Club Open Day at Park Road in Cowes on August the 27th from 12 noon onwards. You're invited to join us for a quiz night on Friday the 4th of May at New Close Cricket Ground, Blackwater Road, Newport, in aid of Sight for Wight. The doors open at 7 p.m. with the quiz starting at 7:30. There will be prizes for the winning team, a raffle and a lucky dip. The bar will be open for refreshments. The price is £2 per person in teams of 4. Registration is required in advance by calling 527957. Leave a message if you don't get an answer, or email Tracy, that's TRACY 71 Pete, Pete 57 at hotmail.co.uk.
And we now move on to the scaffolding news. We're unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. They're also included are tables, chairs, permits that have been issued in the past week. Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, 38 Melville Street, Sandown, Shanklin Library, Victoria Avenue, Shanklin, Not Just Denim, 75 High Street, Sandown, 13 High Street, Sandown, corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, 52 High Street, Ventnor, 31 Pier Street, Ventnor, and 1 Boniface Road, Ventnor, also in Trinity Road. There are currently hoardings at Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, and there are currently skips at 3 and 4 Lee Bank at Chale. 1 Melville Street, Sandown, 26 South Street, Ventnor, 40 South Street, Ventnor, Sandown Pier, Esplanade, Sandown, 31 Garfield Road, Shanklin, and there is a cherry picker at 27 to 31 Regent Street, Shanklin. New scaffolding is due up at 64 High Street, Shanklin from the 16th of April, 8 Victoria Street, Ventnor from the 16th of April, and 3 Downs View, Sandown from the 27th of April. New hoardings are due up at Premier Inn, Esplanade, Sandown from the 16th of April. The Cows area, and there is currently scaffolding at 12A Gordon Road, Cows, Staplers and Green 13 Shooters Hill, Cows, Pascal Atke, Grace's Bakery, High Street, Cows. There are currently hoardings at 93 High Street, Cows. There are currently skips at 38 St Andrew Street, Cows, 92 Newport Road, Cows, 55 Clarence Road, Cows, and 22 St David's Road at East, Cows. New scaffolding is due up at Totty's Fish and Chips, High Street, Cows, from the 26th of March, but they're awaiting new dates.
And in the Newport area, there is currently scaffolding at 38 Key Street, Newport, 18 Lugley Street, Newport, Readers, 33 South Street, Newport, Bryston Viaduct, Military Road, Bryston, the Waverley, 2 Clatterford Road, Newport, rear of St Thomas's Church, St Thomas's Square, Newport, St Cross House, St Cross Lane, Newport, 3 and 4 Holyrood Street, Newport, 1 Key Street, Newport, Elverston Mews, Pyle Street, Newport. There are currently skips at 66 Upper St James's Street, Newport. New scaffolding is due up at Stokesbury's Fish and Chips, 43 St James's Street, Newport, and that's from the 18th of April. 68 Pyle Street, Newport from the 20th of April. Domino's, St James's Street, Newport from the 23rd of April. And in the Ryde area, there is currently scaffolding at Royal Victoria Arcade, Union Street, Ryde, Diamond Pet Shop, 168 High Street, Ryde, 21 High Street, Ryde, Rose Court, George Street, Ryde, 40 Union Street, Ryde, 78 George Street, Ryde, 23 to 23A Union Street, Ryde. There are currently skips at 46 Park Road, Ryde, Etharin Newlands, St Helens. New scaffolding is due up at White's Fish and Chip, 41 to 42 High Street, Ryde, from the 9th of May. West Wight area. There is currently scaffolding at Everson's Funeral Directors in Broadway, Totland, Brooklands, Queen's Road, Freshwater. There is a cherry picker at St James's Church, The Square, Yarmouth. And this week's In Touch. In Touch in this week's episode, Lee Kumartat is joined by Corina Jones, Sam Latif and Kerry Campbell to discuss what it means and how it feels to be a blind woman. The presenter is Lee Kumartat and producer Georgina Hughes. And now we're going to the headlines from the county press.
And the headlines are: the shame of a shower spy, women filmed by Cowes sailing school coach, and also GKN is bought out in hostile takeover. Shame of the shower spy. Women are filmed by Cowes sailing school coach. A yacht racing coach was caught red-handed secretly filming women as they showered. James Gare, aged 47, of Arctic Road, Cowes, the founder of Cowes Race School, admitted 4 counts of voyeurism after he set up a camera in his bathroom and filmed female visitors when they took a shower. He appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday. Gare admitted to police he had filmed women showering a number of times over a long period and was given a suspended jail sentence and made subject to a sexual harm prevention order. Gare was caught last year when 2 women decided to take showers at his house before they went out, said prosecutor Anne Smout. When the second woman went into the bathroom and got undressed, she noticed a small light coming from the camera, which had been partially concealed. She took the camera but said nothing, and the group went out as planned. When she got home, she inspected the footage and saw video of the other woman and then herself entering the bathroom and getting undressed. She phoned police and Gare was arrested. Mrs. Smout told the court. Gare, who was diagnosed with clinical depression after the breakdown of a relationship, told police he was not sure for how long he had been filming women in this way. On the Cowes Race School website, the company advertises accommodation in its Cowes Crew House as part of the course packages. In a victim impact statement, one of the women said she was in total disbelief and Gare had betrayed his position of trust. Another woman said she never would have consented to being filmed in that way. Mrs. Smout said, "This is someone who has been committing these offences for a long time without being detected." She added it was an abuse of trust and involved a significant degree of planning. For Gare, Oscar Vincent said his client never distributed the videos he made or showed them to anyone else. He accepted he had caused distress and long-term harm to those involved. Mr. Vincent said this behaviour was out of character for Gare and referred to positive character references that had been sent in support of the yacht master. He said, "Mr. Gare wishes to say he has put this behaviour behind him." He said Gare was mortified about how badly he had let down the women. Character references described him as an excellent coach who was well respected in the yacht racing industry. His students had gone on to be involved in yacht racing around the world. The Cowes Race School yacht 02 competes at Cowes Week, skippered by Gare. Presiding Magistrate Anne Evans said, "These were appalling breaches of trust and we have no doubt of the significant distress of your victims." Gare was given 26 weeks custody, suspended for 2 years, alongside 40 days of rehabilitation activities and a sexual harm prevention order, which prohibits him from having women stay at his address unless they are aware of the convictions, among other restrictions. He was also ordered to pay £85 court costs and a £115 victims surcharge.
GKN bought out in hostile takeover. Major Isle of Wight employer GKN has been bought out by corporate turnaround specialist Melrose, raising fears of job losses on the island. Shareholders voted to accept the £8.1 billion hostile takeover bid last Thursday. Melrose, which has been branded corporate vultures by unions, went directly to shareholders after its offer was rejected by GKN's board. Chairman of Melrose Industries, Christopher Miller, said on Tuesday, "The combination of Melrose and GKN will create a manufacturing and engineering powerhouse." Melrose has put forward a number of legally binding commitments on matters including pensions, research and development and ownership periods. Melrose is delighted to have the opportunity to own GKN's world-class businesses. Once the acquisition is finalised, we very much look forward to working alongside GKN's skilled and dedicated workforce to improve and invest in all GKN businesses so they can enjoy a highly successful future. GKN fought hard against the bid, and MPs, including Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley, called for it to be blocked. Unite, the Union Assistant General Secretary for Manufacturing, Tony Burke, said, "It is deeply disappointing shareholders have put making a quick profit ahead of the long-term future of one of the UK's most successful engineering companies." Unite Assistant General Secretary for Aerospace, Steve Turner, said, "We need an overhaul of UK takeover laws to strengthen the voice of stakeholders to ensure other British companies do not fall prey to corporate vultures looking to make a quick buck against the national interest." Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley said, "I am disappointed by the result, and I've heard little to reassure me about Melrose. I take Melrose's statement with a pinch of salt and would judge them by their actions, not their promises. We're part of GKN's aerospace business on the island, so my understanding is that Melrose have committed not to sell until 2023. I hope Melrose will see the plant here as something to be invested in, not sold, and the talented and hard-working team who work for GKN as people to be valued and supported." Isle of Wight Councillor for Whippingham and Osborne, Julia Baker-Smith, stressed the importance of GKN's role in the local economy and its valuable support to CCAM Engineering College in Whippingham. She said she would be seeking a meeting with Melrose as soon as possible.
Still protesting innocence. A fisherman convicted for his part in a £53 million cocaine conspiracy has been released from prison, still proclaiming his innocence after serving 6 years and 9 months of his sentence. Scott Birtwistle, aged 28, originally from Selsey, was living on the island at the time of his arrest. He was one of 5 men, known as the Freshwater Five, who were sentenced to a total of 104 years in prison, with 3 of the others coming from the island. Birtwistle was sentenced to 14 years for his part in the crime, but after being released from Rochester Prison, he held up a poster proclaiming 6 years and 9 months in prison for a crime I did not commit, and still no justice. Emily Bolton, the legal director of the Centre for Criminal Appeals charity, which represents Birtwistle and the others, said, "Scott is finally out of prison and back with his family, but he's had 6 years and 9 months of his life stolen from him for a crime he maintains he did not commit." The Court of Appeal will soon be presented with the fresh evidence which has emerged since the trial, and Scott and the other members of the Freshwater Five hope they will finally get a full and fair hearing.
Former Isle of Wight Council leader David Pugh has returned to island politics. He was elected chair of the Isle of Wight Conservative Association at its annual meeting last Thursday after his predecessor, Councillor Ian Ward, currently the Council's Cabinet Member for Transport, stepped down. The election of Mr Pugh, who oversaw the move to a 2-tier school system and the introduction of the Highways PFI project, has already prompted disquiet among some island Tories. Describing Mr Pugh's legacy as poisonous and claiming he had damaged the life chances of a generation of school children, Newport West Councillor Chris Whitehouse said earlier last week he would find it impossible to serve as a Conservative if Mr Pugh was elected chair. However, he later softened his stance and said he would suspend his involvement with the association for the next 6 months. Now a public affairs consultant, Mr Pugh told the county press it was time for island Tories to work together.
£15,000 council cash for Pugh Museum's new home. A big push is underway to move the National Pugh Museum into Sandown Battery. The quirky island attraction, which started life at the Isle of Wight Zoo, is seeking financial and other donations. The team behind the museum is appealing for celebrities to donate some famous poo, and members of the public can pay for the privilege for £1,500 as part of a new crowdfunding campaign. The museum has a serious side as it delves into the ecology and biology of animal droppings and explores the taboo around bowel problems and poo-related health problems. The team has now found the perfect place to call home, Sandown Battery, opposite the Heights Leisure Centre. The fortification is designated a Scheduled Ancient Monument by Historic England and was built to protect the island from French invasion during the mid-1800s, but has lain derelict for years. The Isle of Wight Council is allowing the museum to use it for free while they get set up and has donated £15,000 towards renovation work.
Children's Play Centre JR Zone will close for more than 3 weeks for repair work after a flood. A large water main behind JR Zone at Manners View on Riverway Industrial Estate Newport burst in late January, flooding the play centre and leading to the evacuation of around 30 children. JR Zone managed to open the weekend after the flood, and managers hope to be able to dry out, repair and replace equipment as required without any further closure. John Carter, Managing Director, said unfortunately the floor has simply refused to dry out. We now reluctantly had to make the decision to close so we can strip all the floors and bring in heavy-duty drying equipment to dry out the floor slab. This means JR Zone will be out of action from April the 17th through to May the 11th. We're confident we will be able to open as normal on May the 12th.
Village roadworks to take 16 days. Major works to improve Newchurch High Street and Winford Road at Newchurch are due to start on Tuesday, April the 17th. The work will be carried out over 16 days in 4 phases to reduce disruption for residents, businesses and Newchurch Primary School. For phases 1 to 3 on the section from the A3056 into the village, the work will be undertaken between the hours of 6:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. For the final 2-day phase, the section outside of Newchurch Primary, the work will be between 9:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. outside of the school drop-off and pick-up periods.
Mountbatten Hospice has been rebranded with a new name and a new look. The Isle of Wight organisation, including the Newport Hospice, home care teams and 10 charity shops, will be known as Mountbatten. The new look has been created by Stephen Isat, a vintner, who runs the award-winning Think Farm marketing agency and has gifted his expertise to the charity. Mountbatten Chief Executive Nigel Hartley said it would enable the charity to tell the full story about its role on the Isle of Wight. Often you hear people say the hospice when they talk about our service, and usually they mean the 16 beds at our building in Newport. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we do. Recently, someone mentioned they do not support us as they believe £7 million per annum for 16 beds is rather expensive. Thanks to our island's fantastic fundraising support, on any one day we also provide 24/7 care to more than 650 people who are facing death and dying in their own homes. People also don't realise we have our own team at St Mary's Hospital, providing education programmes for professionals and supporting hundreds of patients to return home as quickly as possible. It is also important to understand we have never solely cared for people with cancer. Every day our experts support those living with cancer, but also older people living with increasing frailty, dementia, heart failure and other long-term life-threatening illnesses. Through our Mountbatten Coordination Centre, we're able to reach islanders much sooner in their illness so we can better plan together for their future care and make sure their wishes are known. From now on, the hospice building will be called Mountbatten Hospice, the care home teams Mountbatten at Home, and the staff Mountbatten nurses and Mountbatten carers. The shops will have local names such as Mountbatten Ride, and fundraising events will have new names such as Walk the Wight with Mountbatten. A new logo will retain the iconic sunflower, but with one petal gently departing from the main bloom, and a new strapline describing the 3 elements of the charity's work: living, dying, remembering. In addition to Mr Isaac's support, a £10,000 donation has been given to the charity to carry out the rebrand.
A charity box thief is branded a cretin. A cafe has hit out at the cretin who stole its hospice collection box. A message from the owner of God's Providence House, Robin Crawley, was written on a chalkboard outside the cafe in St Thomas's Square, Newport, and it read, "To the cretin that stole our hospice charity box, I hope karma comes round and bites you in the arse." The cafe has held an Mountbatten Hospice collection box in the same spot for 3 years. Robin said, "It's a kick in the teeth and it's absolutely disgusting."
A meditative and symbolic reenactment of the crucifixion of Jesus took place through the streets of Yarmouth on Good Friday. Around 60 people took part in the annual Walk of Witness organised by Churches Together in West Wight. Starting at the Green, the group walked to St James's Church, where a packed congregation listened to the story of the crucifixion unfold. The Reverend Richard Harding, as the Roman centurion, led the procession into town, with organiser Mike Hackleton carrying the cross. In church, Sarah Mills portrayed Jesus' mother. Mary and Peter Bryant and Mike were the two thieves crucified next to the cross. Mike said, "We wanted to do something that would have an impact on the community and remind everyone that Jesus died for each one of us so we might be forgiven for all our wrongs and have new life in him." It had a very powerful impact on everyone.
Fears concrete pipes will fall on beach. They could kill someone if they fell. That is the fear of John Powell, who spotted enormous concrete drainage pipes jutting out from the cliff face at Compton. John of East Cowes regularly walks along the stretch of beach and is concerned about the pipes in the cliff. There are also pipes on the beach. They are such a hazard. If they fall down, they are going to kill someone. I'm pretty sure they will come down one day and, with the holiday season coming up, they could be very dangerous. The land is owned by the National Trust, but the pipes were installed by the council in connection with the drainage to the road. Robin Lang of the National Trust said, "A lot of pipes were removed from the beach a while ago, and we were very grateful for that, but the cost of removing the remainder should be the council's. Bits of cliff could fall at any time, so our advice is always it's safer to keep away." Island Roads told the county press this week the company would be visiting the site.
A father has spoken of the harrowing moment he was told his son could die before the baby was rushed to the mainland for emergency hospital treatment. Dillon Johnson, who was born 6 weeks ago with a hole in his heart, was taken to Southampton General last Friday with a bacterial infection. His dad, Wroxall Social Club bar manager Mike Johnson, 57, said, "Dillon hasn't been out of hospital since he was born. He has several heart problems and has already had one infection. But the doctor said this one was more serious and we could lose him. It just seemed to suck the life out of him. They said he was critically ill and slipping away, and I should call friends and family to let them know. Obviously, I just burst into tears." Mike, his daughter Sarah Johnson, 20, and Dillon travelled from St Mary's by ambulance. A space was saved at the front of the Red Funnel ferry, which waited at East Cowes, to ensure they reached Southampton as quickly as possible. Dillon, who is extremely vulnerable to infection due to his heart problems, was given antibiotics. Doctors do not yet know the cause of the infection. He was on oxygen with a drip in each arm, a tube in the top of his head and another in his nose. I could only touch a tiny bit of his nose and cheek. He's picking up now, though, and I've been able to give him a cuddle. During his hospital stay, Dillon received several surprise visitors. Southampton Football Club players, including Wesley Hote and James Ward-Prowse. They were visiting the children's ward, giving out teddies, which was really nice. They were genuinely interested to talk to people, and it gave everyone a lift, said Mike. I'll be able to show Dillon the pictures when he's older, although he's not going to support Southampton. I'm a Man City fan.
Pupils inspired by battling Nick. Students at Ryde School presented £3,250 to Ronald McDonald's House in Southampton, a charity that provides free accommodation for families with children in hospital. The students raised the money on behalf of former classmate Nick Platt to thank the charity for the help they gave Nick's family when Nick was rushed into hospital in April last year. Nick, then studying in the final year of his GCSEs at Ryde School, was taken to hospital with suspected meningitis and sepsis. This condition was so severe he was transferred to Southampton General Hospital, and despite all the specialist help he was receiving, he suffered multiple organ failure and his parents were told to expect the worst. Nick was transferred to St Thomas's Hospital in London, where he was put on a heart and lung bypass machine for 5 days. Nick continued to fight, and after 19 days he was taken off life support and returned to Southampton General. After 40 days and 39 nights in hospital, Nick was allowed home. Nick is still recovering and one day will need a kidney transplant, but with the help of his family and friends, he is rebuilding his life. His determination to survive this ordeal and rebuild his life inspired both the students and the staff at Ryde School to help Nick and his family raise money for Ronald McDonald House, where his family stayed during Nick's prolonged time in hospital. Between them, they raised £3,250 through a quiz night and other funding activities.
The island's 16 GP practices have launched a new scheme to provide a more joined-up approach to healthcare. They have adopted the Care and Health Information Exchange, that's CHIE, a secure system which shares health and social care information from GP surgeries, hospitals, community and mental health, social services and others. Patients now only have to tell their story once and medical staff can access the history on the system. Dr Michelle Legg, Chair and Clinical Lead of the Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, said, "It's great to know we now have comprehensive coverage of CHIE across the island, so all patients can benefit from its introduction." CHIE helps healthcare professionals across the island, Hampshire and the surrounding areas provide safer and faster treatment, and will especially benefit patients who need to travel to the mainland for treatment and their GPs when they return home. Only health and social care professionals who are involved in direct patient care will be able to access patient records. Patients can opt out of the scheme.
Yellow line plan averted. The controversial plans to paint double yellow lines throughout Freshwater Bay have been shelved. The proposal would have meant no parking from Afton Road all along the Bay area and up past Orchard Brothers at Victoria Road. Residents and the Parish Council have been taken by surprise by the proposals, which were announced in December following the completion of roadworks and resurfacing of Afton Road. But following a meeting between Freshwater, Parish Councillors Jill Kennett, John Medland and Brian Hinton, Gary Stretch, Highways Engineer, Bill Murphy, Head of Contract Management at Island Roads, and Becca Cameron, representing Freshwater Bay Residents Association, a compromise has been reached. Councillor Medland said Gary presented new plans in which the no parking at any time zones are to be replaced by no parking from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. between May the 1st and September the 1st, except on dangerous corners of some junctions. We also negotiated some additional parking in the winter in front of the Albion and all the time on the northern side of Gate Lane, parallel to the square. We doubled the proposed coach parking bay provision and are now negotiating the final free restricted parking needed around the bays at all times of the year. Everyone seems to be pleased with the results, including both the Piano Bar and Orchard Brothers, who claimed they would have been adversely affected by the original proposals.
A new directory gives up-to-date information about care services on the Isle of Wight. The new edition of the Isle of Wight Care Services Directory and accompanying website gives information on all aspects of arranging care and support. It includes advice on how to stay independent for as long as possible, the different care and support available, and what to look for when choosing a care provider. There are comprehensive listings of all registered care services on the island. For a free copy, contact the Council on 823340. It is also available at carers centres, St Mary's Hospital, GP surgeries, Age UK and the Alzheimer's Society. And it is also available in spoken word.
Maxine's proud of making a difference. Working alongside Bangladeshi volunteers to fight poverty in some of the world's poorest communities proved to be an eye-opening experience for a Newport woman. Maxine Clark, aged 23, worked on a project run by International Development Organisation VSO as part of the UK government-backed International Citizen Service, that's ICS, programme. Her project focused on training to increase jobs of opportunities, creating small enterprises, improving access to healthcare, educating people about child marriage, and improving access to safe water and sanitation. Maxine, a former Cowes Enterprise College pupil, also lived with a host family to fully immerse herself in the community and gain a better understanding of the challenges they face. She said, "I had an incredible time in Bangladesh and have been lucky enough to see firsthand the impact these projects have on small rural communities. We were able to improve many aspects of their lives by working together and sharing knowledge to ensure this development is sustainable. It's great to think we have been able to give young people the chance to reach their full potential. I also got to experience a whole new culture and make friends for life." Now Maxine is back in the UK. She will be taking on an Action at Home project, ensuring her new skills also benefit the local community. Maxine added, "My time in Bangladesh has made me realise how committed and determined I am to end the ending of poverty and helping people. Since being back on the island, I have been actively getting involved with local charities, and in summer I will be heading to Tanzania with the VSO for 4 months to work on education."
There was a special gift to mark the retirement of the Royal Solent Yacht Club's head waitress after nearly 26 years' service. On her final service shift, Mary Smith announced the previous day she'd become a great-grandmother for the first time. There were 2 presentations to island-born Mary, 69 of Newport, as members of the Yarmouth Club said farewell to the popular member of staff. Commodore Tony Walton presented her with a decanter and glasses engraved with the club crest, as well as flowers and a cheque made up by members' donations. And at an earlier gentleman's lunch, she was presented with a return taxi from home to Southampton Airport and a club-class British Airways return ticket to Gibraltar to visit one of her sons, Wayne. Mary said, "It's been a magical time here. I have a rapport with my members and my cheek has got me a long way. Now I want to spend more time with my family. I have my great-grandson Rudy and another grandson Ronnie, who is only a year old. Mary is the youngest of 16 children and grew up in Newport. She has 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and now Rudy."
Council's push to fight sugar. With ready meals and processed foods, people are eating more sugar than ever. A new Isle of Wight Council initiative, Sugar Smart Isle of Wight, will raise awareness of hidden sugars and their impact on health. A 2016 survey identified islanders wanted action on hidden sugars. The Council will work in partnership with the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, Leisure Services, Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce and Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group. Workplaces, schools and other organisations can pledge to cut sugar, swapping snacks in vending machines or changing foods served in cafeterias. Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Public Health, Councillor Claire Mosdale, said, "We know there are many causes for obesity. Sugar Smart Isle of Wight is a great opportunity for us to work together to help our community to raise awareness of hidden sugars. I would encourage all islanders, employers, food businesses, retailers and schools to make a pledge to the initiative and raise awareness of hidden sugars."
A total of 1,000 ducks were given a rousing send-off by a piper at the annual Kelbourne Duck Race on Sunday. John Brodie played his bagpipes to start the race at the bridge by Lodge House at Westover, and they floated down the river through Winkle Street, finishing at the bridge further along. Organiser Steve Mansfield said, "John offered his services last year and was happy to do it again. He plays the pipes as a hobby and teaches the instrument on the island. He's very popular on the day. We had another large crowd with hundreds attending thanks to some decent weather in the morning. I think it's so popular because it's such a fantastic location." Around £1,000 was raised from the event, and the money will go towards the upkeep of the village recreation centre.
Raising a glass to partnership. Raise a glass and show your support for Isle of Wight Pride. Goddard's Brewery at Ryde has released a special edition beer, Island Pride, and will donate a percentage of the profits to the charity. Managing Director Xavier Baker said, "The bottle label and pump clip design will include the Isle of Wight Pride rainbow and heart windmill, so you can't miss it. We are proud to support such an important and soon to become iconic event for the island." Isle of Wight Pride trustee Matt Bundy said, "We are really excited. Goddard's is releasing a special beer to celebrate the island's hosting UK Pride 2018. We love the design and hope this beer can stay with us for future Pride events. To receive money as well as exposure from this partnership means a great deal to us, and we are proud to be working closely with such an amazing brewery."
A new leadership team is set to take the helm at Christ the King College from the start of the summer term. The new team has been put in place following the retirement of Principal Pat Goodhead and her husband and Vice Principal David Goodhead. Chair of Governors David Lister has also stepped down. It follows the Isle of Wight Council's call for a change in leadership following a financial crisis that has rocked the Newport Secondary School. As reported, the council has demanded the school repays its £2.7 million debt borrowed to foot the annual £650,000 bill for hiring its sixth form centre from the company that owns it, and refused further lending. The school is working with the council to draw up an action plan to tackle its financial problems. Matthew Quinn, head teacher at Oakland's Catholic School and Sixth Form College in Waterlooville, will become interim executive principal. He has years of experience as a successful head teacher and will bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the role. Ryan Williams, currently the Vice Principal, will assume the post of Head of School and will be responsible for the day-to-day running of the college. Liz Burden, Chair of Governors, said, "We're very fortunate to have two high-calibre leaders in Mr Quinn and Mr Williams. Mr Quinn is an outstanding head teacher with a proven track record over a long period of time in a faith-based school. His expertise will be invaluable. Mr Williams has excellent relationships with staff, students and parents, and will provide continuity so the strong educational foundations that exist can be carefully built upon."
Round Island with a fridge. Former Royal Marines Commando John O'Hill has set himself a new challenge to carry a 50-kilogram fridge around the island. John O, 41 of Binstead, intends to complete the 106 kilometre feat in 24 hours over the weekend of May the 5th and 6th. Asked why he has chosen to carry a fridge on his back, he said, "A washing machine weighed too much. We've taken the gas cylinder out of the fridge, but it is still a big, heavy lump." John O is raising money for the Mountbatten Hospice after he was inspired while undergoing treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder on the hospice site. He said, "After 15 years, my career was cut short due to injuries sustained on active duty. I have fractured my neck twice and have had complete shoulder reconstruction. I decided I'd like to do my bit to help the hospice, and I thought of the fridge challenge. It will no doubt throw up some real hurdles for me due to the injuries I still carry to this day, but that is nothing compared to what the families that pass through the hospice have to endure, which gives me the motivation to crack on and achieve it." Jono, now retrained as a level 4 personal trainer, is being helped with a training package from CrossFit Incursion, physiotherapy support from PhysioCare in Ryde, and sponsored training equipment from Love Running in Newport. The fridge has been supplied by Mountbatten Hospice shop in Newport and adapted to carry by Andy at the Ryde Inshore Rescue. And in addition to that little report, there's a follow-on which says Marines Branch calling all island members of the Royal Marine Association. A meeting has been arranged on Friday, April the 20th at 7 p.m. at the Royal British Legion Club, Collingwood Road at Shanklin, to reform the Isle of Wight Royal Marine Association branch. Apologies can be sent to David Rowlands on 209759 or email Lindsay, that's LINDSAY Rowlands, ROWLANDS, at gmail.com.
And now it's goodbye from Pauline.
And it's goodbye from Mike. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Good morning, everyone. This is Barry reading the County Press for April 6th, together with...
Hello, I'm Linda.
And we begin with a letter from David Williams of Newport, titled Bush Bats. I am shocked to see the huge amount of litter, dog mess and bush bats, plastic bags of dog poo hanging from branches everywhere and all over the island, including the beaches. And I wonder if we are heading towards becoming the most untidy and least bothered county in the country. I dread to think what visitors to the island must think of what they see. If we have concerns about hikes in council tax, or that the council does not have enough money to adequately support social care, libraries, road maintenance and other important needs, then consider the unnecessary waste of money having to be spent cleaning up the mess made by idle and careless people. Money that could be much better spent elsewhere. That said, there is a need for our council to provide more regularly emptied rubbish bins and dog poo bins, especially along and at the ends of town and country walks. Covert patrols to identify and fine offenders wouldn't be a bad idea either. Schools could also play their part by stressing the need for the children not to throw wrappers, cans and plastic bottles on the ground. If each community took an interest in the cleanliness of its immediate neighbourhood, it would make a massive difference. Equally, making the island environment less of an eyesore generally could prevent a potentially negative impact on the tourist trade.
And now a letter from G. Lyons of Sundown. Congratulations to those involved in placing the Commonwealth War Graves plaque on the wall of Christchurch, Broadway, Sundown. Behind this plaque are the First World War graves of the brave men who gave their lives for our freedom. I have been this week to visit the graves, and the headstones have been well and truly cleaned up. They're in beautiful condition, and whoever has done this work deserves a mention. The reason I take an interest in them is because I am a Second World War veteran. I've been back twice to visit the war graves of my comrades and visit the battlefields where we all fought together before many of my friends were lost in battle. The war graves are well looked after and are a credit to the War Graves Commission. Those war graves on our doorstep at Sundown could be educational and historical, as they are 100 years old, and it would be ideal if schools could talk about the history of the First World War and remember a few of the thousands of lives that were given for our freedom. We are lucky, really, to have a reminder here at Christchurch.
And the headline here, headline letter, Still No Floaty, from H. Malarkey, Bristol. We live in Bristol and like to visit my mother's family in Cowes when we can. My mother is mainly confined to a wheelchair, but thoroughly enjoys travelling to East Cowes on the Red Funnel ferry. Her sister lives in Cowes, so using the Red Jet service would be easier, but never mind. We left the East Cowes terminal only to find the floating bridge out of service. In my opinion, the replacement boat service was not suitable for a wheelchair user. So we booked a taxi to Cowes. This journey took over 80 minutes owing to the extremely heavy traffic caused by roadworks. Talking to my auntie about this, she said road congestion was very bad nowadays. Her husband's father had worked at JS Wight's during the Second World War. He lived in Newchurch and said it was quicker to travel to Cowes from Newchurch in the 1980s, so who knows what it is like now. When he didn't catch the train, he cycled and used the floating bridge, which remained in service throughout the war, even surviving a U-boat attack, the torpedo passing under the floating bridge and beaching itself on a slipway at Wight. So a month or so passed and we again visited. Guess what? No floating bridge. Out of service for maintenance. I thought it was new. I think the red jet in future.
And now from Councillor Eric Lawson of Sundown. Last week, Sundown Mayor Councillor Raj Patel set the record straight in County Press letters of 30th of March. As Mayor, he and the Town Clerk are the only people who are entitled to speak on behalf of the Council. While his statement was factually correct, it lacked in openness and transparency. By omission, a reader may think previous reports of Councillor Dupre's behaviour were exaggerated. In my opinion, they were not. This statement from Councillor Patel shines a light on the priorities of the Council. In the past 2 weeks, Sundown Town councillors have received 3 to 4 emails from the Town Clerk in relation to another perceived matter of protocol and behaviour. However, not one message has been sent out regarding the conduct of Councillor Dupre, not even a reminder to us all of the councillor's code of conduct we sign up to when elected.
And a letter here from Mary Gildrow of Ryde. I would like, through the county press, to thank the 2 young men who came to help us in the Tesco car park last Thursday when my elderly husband fell heavily and was unable to get up unaided. We both send most grateful thanks for your very kind assistance.
And from Nigel Hartley, Chief Executive Officer, Mountbatten. We have recently changed our name from Earl Mountbatten Hospice to Mountbatten, and changed the way we present ourselves, and I want to explain why. The main reason is to better tell the story of how your fundraising supports islanders when they need us most. Often people only think of our Newport hospice building, but this is the tip of the iceberg. Thanks to your generous support, on any one day, we also provide free 24/7 care for more than 650 people at home. We train and educate healthcare staff at St Mary's, and our experts care for people with many life-threatening illnesses, including dementia. Our new Mountbatten Coordination Centre reaches islanders much sooner in their illness, and our island-wide bereavement service supports children, adults and families wherever a death has occurred. We want people to be more at ease with death and dying. Often we support people in a crisis who haven't thought about the end of their life. It's always difficult to talk about, but we know being more open can really improve people's experiences. This is why we encourage everyone to use our Sunflower Cafe, open to all 7 days a week. Join our community choir, death chats and concerts to change perceptions of our work. We will not lose the word hospice, but we will use it when we refer to our Newport building. I know many will be asking how much we have spent, and this is a responsible question. A specific donation has allowed us to change external signage, but we will only make changes when literature runs out, when uniforms wear out, etc. This change has been made possible by people's generosity, and we have not spent any charitable income unwisely. This also includes the fact that we will not replace anything other than the immediate external signage to the hospice building and the shops until we absolutely have to. I would publicly like to thank island-based branding expert Stephen Isat and colleagues at his agency Think Farm, especially Louisa Parsons, whose family connections with us showed through in her work. A very generous gift in kind from Think Farm has given us a unique opportunity to tell the story of the care we provide across the Isle of Wight and have an international award-winning agency improve the way we look.
And a letter here from the MP Bob Seeley. We need Isle of Wight University. One of the most important things our community can be doing is developing more higher education on the island. Why is this important? First, we need to give our young people the best future we can. We need to get the message out you can succeed here, not just on the mainland. Second, education is critical to improving the quality of life and aspiration. Lack of education, lack of aspiration are closely linked. Third, higher education, like culture and high-tech jobs, is vital for our island's overall regeneration. For 50 years we have had the wrong economic model. It hasn't worked and in fact has actively made us poorer compared to the mainland. The education and high-tech revolution that is re-energising Bournemouth, Brighton, Portsmouth and Southampton has passed us by. We need to catch up. We do already have higher education on the island. Platform 1 is an incredibly good music school. The UK Sailing Academy is a national leader, and HTP runs great apprentice courses. The excellent Art Technology Group is working with 8 top universities on undergraduate work to PhD projects in life sciences. Dinosaur Isle has links with Southampton and Portsmouth universities. Newport Harbour is set for redevelopment. I believe we need a small campus on the harbour as a focal point for education and regeneration. As well as getting more young islanders into higher education, we should attract mainland students to the island. If you want amazing nightlife, then the island will never compete with London or Manchester. But if you like sailing, cycling, walking, surfing or riding, then the island is the best place in England to be. The Isle of Wight College is part of the solution. It is already offering higher national diplomas and foundation degrees. Options include developing a new university here, finding a mainland university to run a campus here, or franchising good university courses from elsewhere. County Hall is now working on a development plan. It could be great if the Isle of Wight Council could consider committing to the expansion of higher education. We need to make it happen.
And now, looking back. 100 years ago, April the 6th, 1918, a well-known Newport cricketer, Lieutenant Colonel B.R. Somerville, played superbly in a cricket match in India. He scored 117 in the first innings, enabling his side to gain an exciting win that was reported by the Rangoon Gazette. Cows and East Cows raised more than £104,000 in their war bond efforts after previously falling behind quota. The belated effort was praised as a huge success that was better late than never, and credit was given to those who worked hard to protect the patriotic reputations of their towns.
And 75 years ago, April the 3rd, 1943, the Home Secretary announced the ban on pleasure visits to the island would be reimposed. He said, "The time has come when the question of access to coastal areas must be considered from the point of view of the use of this country as a base for offensive operations against the enemy." The Distinguished Flying Cross was awarded to an island man, P.O. William Jolliffe Whitwood. He participated in numerous successful missions against heavily defended targets and was praised for his quiet determination and devotion to duty. He was educated at Sundown Secondary School and was a partner in a Sundown solicitors firm.
And 50 years ago, on March the 29th, 1968. The building plans for the nation's first two-form entry middle school were approved. Mayfield Road Middle School was set to replace the Player Street School with open plan centres and independent libraries. The Department of Education was said to be very pleased with the plans. A new crossing between Ryde and Portsmouth, estimated to take only 10 minutes, was opened by Seaspeed, a company set up by British Railways. The new vessel, the HM2, was the first hovercraft to be used in commercial operation. The opening follows a successful 2 years for Seaspeed, which also built the regular service between Southampton and Cowes.
And 25 years ago, April 2nd, 1993, former deputy head girl of Ryde School, Vicky Stevenson, was among 9 students aboard a Royal Navy patrol boat seized by a knife-wielding French fisherman. She said the occupation had been a frightening experience, but had not deterred her from her ambition to join the Royal Navy and become a naval surgeon. An intervention by the county press stopped an 87-year-old blind and deaf widow from having her electricity cut off. Lucy Attrell had disputed a £72 bill, but Southern Electricity had sent workmen to her home to disconnect her supply. The county press stepped in and revealed Mrs. Attrell didn't owe a penny. Southern Electric owed her £7.42.
And 10 years ago, April the 4th, 2008, Dame Ellen MacArthur was described as a symbol of Franco-British friendship by French President Nicolas Sarkozy. He presented her with France's highest decoration, the Légion d'honneur, at the Royal Naval College in Greenwich. Plans for wind turbines at Ventnor Golf Club were overwhelmingly backed by town councillors. It was said in the town meeting that the turbines would service 600 homes in Ventnor and would produce 1,000 tonnes of carbon savings per year. Ventnor Golf Club aimed to become one of the first carbon-neutral clubs in the world.
And the story behind the cricket kit bag by Brian Greening. For many years, Keith Mitchell, a lifelong friend and sporting colleague of mine, has spoken of a man by the name of W.H. Croucher, who scored the first century in a cricket match at Victoria Recreation Ground, Newport, in 1902. He recently elaborated by telling me 99-year-old Neil Shuttler, Newport Cricket Club Vice President, had passed on for safekeeping an old cricket bag to the club. Attached to this bag was a brass plaque that commemorated Mr. Croucher's feat, but left questions unanswered. Sadly, the bag was beyond repair, but the plaque was retained. It stated it had been presented by PHA-CC to the recipient. But who were the donors? 20 minutes of research in the county press archives and the full story emerged. And an interesting story it is. On July the 17th, 1902, a cricket match took place between a Newport Cricket Club 11 and a team representing past and present pupils of Portland House Academy, situated at the top of West Street, Newport, where many important businessmen of the town gained their education. It appears Mr. Croucher's former school had recognised his achievement by presenting him with a cricket bag. The century maker was in top form and was eventually caught on the boundary after scoring 125 runs, ably supported by J.H. Williams, who made 84 out of the team's total of 283. At the time, another record, being the highest number of runs scored in an innings at that venue. In reply, the Newport team were dismissed for just 53 runs, with H.F. Scott and C.J. Minns each taking 5 wickets.
And now for Wight Memories, and this is entitled Style Through the Ages by James Wolven. Of the 30,000 objects at Carisbrooke Castle Museum, more than 1,800 are items of costume. These include dresses, suits, uniforms, hats, shoes and accessories. The collection ranges from Georgian and Victorian gowns and dresses to wartime python skin shoes and demob suits. Over the 100 years the museum has been open, the inhabitants of the island have donated treasured homemade family clothes, chance finds in auctions and attics, and pieces used for amateur dramatic productions, before they realised they had been wearing the real thing. On Tuesday, March the 13th, there was a talk at the museum by curatorial assistant Kate Tiley, which focused on this fascinating collection of costumes. Highlights of the talk included a rare surviving example of a man's 18th century broad-brimmed hat, found during the demolition of the Green Dragon Inn in Newport, a selection of Georgian dresses of silk and cotton, and a fine example of a uniform jacket of the Isle of Wight militia, worn by Major John Popham in 1794. From the Victorian period, the museum's collection includes many suits, uniforms, hats, wedding dresses, yachting costumes, and children's clothes. Significant items are costume pieces from the well-known fashion house started by John Redfern in Cowes, which was famous for its sporting costumes and smart tailor-made dresses and coats suited to everyday fashionable wear. Redfern's styles were popularised by the rich and famous, including Queen Victoria and the royal family, and Redfern went on to have branches in Paris, London and New York. Another interesting highlight is a collection of more than 100 items from Jolliffe's shoe shop in Cowes. Closed in 1991, the shop gave its collection of shoes and shoe-related products to the museum and shows the type of shoe stocked for the local population from the early 1900s to the 1980s.
Now we have Ireland's hymn writers, who can still be heard today. The Isle of Wight has a remarkable number of connections with notable hymn writers, both women and men. The golden age was probably in the Victorian and Edwardian era, although one of the island's most famous hymn writers was Thomas Ken, 1637 to 1711, rector of Brightstone, one of the three bishops for which the parish is famed, later becoming Bishop of Bath and Wells. The Bishop of Oxford, Samuel Wilberforce, who served in the same parish and is best known for his hostility to Darwin's theory of evolution, is another of these figures. The most famous of the island-born figures was Albert Midlane, who spent his life in Newport and brought fame to the area. His achievements were celebrated in his lifetime, with gatherings in St James's Square to sing his best-known hymns, particularly "There's a Friend for Little Children." While this hymn is out of fashion now, other island-written hymns are still used on a regular basis, including Mary Maud's "Thine Forever, God of Love." Mary was one of a number of women writers whose work has a considerable influence in the early years of the 20th century. The lives and works of these hymn writers was explored during a study day held at Carisbrooke Castle Museum, led by Richard Smout.
And now for My View, a column by Kat James, and it's headlined, "Right to Bear Arms, Too Much to Ask?" And bear, I have to tell you, is spelt B-A-R-E. I recall reading an interview with actor Richard E. Grant in which he explained why he was leaving California. Living in Hollywood at the height of his fame in a state warm enough to grow oranges, he moved back to the UK because he missed the grey skies. I suppose relentless sunshine might get a bit monotonous, but having lived my whole life in England, I wouldn't know. I'm one of those freckly people who burns at the sight of the sun, and although I love swimming in the sea at Apley, it has to be exceptionally hot for me to twang on my cosy and take the plunge. Nonetheless, after months of mild rainy days and the too prolonged cold snappery of the beast from the east, I'm more than ready to shed my winter coat. I can't remember what it's like to be fully naked. I feel like I've been stitched into my combinations for weeks. Winter draws on, as the old saying goes. I've taken to wearing 2 coats, an outer woolen one and a cosy feathered-filled quilted number underneath, which I refer to as my Robert Downey jacket. My hands look like they're auditioning for a revival of Steptoe and Son, so wedded are they to fingerless mittens. And it's not just me. An avid people watcher, always on the lookout for candidates for Wight Catwalk, my street-style blog. All I've seen for weeks is people hunkered up in animal-patterned fleeces or Helly Hansen-style anoraks. Everyone seems to be waiting for spring, tantalising glimpses of which can be seen in daffodils and lambs on ashy down. Now, I'm no climate change denier. Global warming is probably on its way and we'll all succumb to its drought-bringing properties. However, imagine what it could be like on the Isle of Wight if, instead of a few scorchingly hot days in mid-June, we had a more Mediterranean climate. Instead of being Tracy Two Coats, I could decide on what gauge of cardigan to shrug on. The streets would be full of smiling people, turning their happy faces towards the vitamin-enriching sun, instead of grey-faced smokers huddled in doorways out of the drizzle.
Maybe people would use their cars less, enjoying instead a clement walk in the shops or work. We'd casually meet our friends and make new ones as we sauntered about, rather than scowling at each other over steering wheels. A fantasy land, with payment cafes patronised by lightly dressed folks, perusing the county press, sipping frothy coffee, and raising their hats to passers-by. I have relatives who spend the early months of the year thawing in the heat of southern Europe, presumably subsidised by their winter fuel allowance. I find the idea increasingly attractive. Perhaps this December will find me somewhere sunny. After all, is it too much to ask to have the right to bear arms?
Now Jim Gibbons gives his random thoughts on shopping. As I write, Ryde Co-op store is going through one of its fits of rearrangement of goods, and the customers are less than chuffed. Supermarkets, not just the Co-op, do this every 6 months or so. The god of supermarkets ruled that it should be. So back in the mist of 1950s, when the world was young, and graved it in stone as one of his 10 commandments. Before that, the shopper didn't have to remember where the canned soups were. Indeed he, well, mostly she, it was kept on his own side of the counter and certainly wasn't allowed to handle the goods before purchase. You asked, and they were brought to you. Before leaving the gender issue, it might surprise newcomers to the human race to learn that in those days of big families, much of the shopping was done by children. In a shop such as a big co-op, the assistants would take your 10-shilling note for a week's food and shoot it over an aerial ropeway to a central cash office, and your change and receipt would return in the same way.
You would, of course, quote your co-op number, 13068 in our case, to ensure you got your divvy. If I keep on digressing in this way, this column will resemble one of the speeches of the lesser Ronnie from the oversized armchair. But what of that? One should copy the masters and aspire to greater things. Speaking of aspirations, Ryde Aspire seems to be going from strength to strength in the old Holy Trinity Church. Concentrate, Gibbons. Anyway, the co-op shifts everything around, as a result of which many customers decide to try Iceland. In due course, Iceland does the same, and its patrons give Tesco a whirl, and eventually Tesco reorganises itself, and some of its clients choose to patronise the co-op. This delights the shadowy bosses in central offices, who notoriously value new customers more highly than the old ones, and feel they have all triumphed. The shop staff, of course, are not consulted and bear the brunt of the customers' irritation. I once emailed the co-op and listed more than five items which I had previously bought here and very much enjoyed, but which had been dropped by the store. The gist of their reply was it was all my fault for liking the wrong things. The notion of the customer is king has never caught on very widely in this country. The staff, on the other hand, unlike the escalator, are always dependable and helpful. In every supermarket, we've all noticed everything's getting smaller, have we not? Bars of chocolate shrink to biscuit size. Round cakes become elliptical, losing matter in the process. Packets that once held a dozen fish fingers shrivel to 10. The only thing that's growing bigger is the hole in the middle of the toilet roll. Wine bottles seem to preserve their virtue, however, which is cheering, one of the greatest endowments given to mankind. God, the universe, or my parents, delete as you wish, is a complete inability to distinguish between expensive wine and plonk, which has saved me a lot over the years. I propose to end my articles with a relevant quote for you to identify, no prizes. Who said England is a nation of shopkeepers? Answer in my next article.
And now what's on? The Cows Radar Ex-Employees Association is meeting at 2:30 p.m. on Thursday in the Isle of Wight Community Club, Park Road, Cows. Ash Gibbs will speak about the Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust.
And the action on hearing loss will be at Freshwater Methodist Church between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Thursday for its monthly drop-in. Advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For more information, call 529 533.
Jazz at the Apollo. Newport Jazz Club presents the Adana Minghella Quartet, featuring Mark Edwards piano, Lee Goodall alto sax and Pete Maxfield double bass. That's on Sunday the 15th of April at 3 o'clock until 5:30 p.m. Tickets are available at the door.
The Jazz Cafe with the Jim Thorne Trio at Key Arts on Saturday the 14th of April starts at 7 p.m. and tickets are £5.
And more jazz. Calling all jazz early birds. Time is running out to buy early bird tickets for next month's Newport Jazz Weekend. Jazz lovers have until midnight on April the 14th to take advantage of the offer. Event director Jim Thorne said, "The lineup this year puts us at the forefront of the UK jazz scene. The new Isle of Wight Youth Jazz Orchestra made a splendid debut at Key Arts and led by Derek Nash, whose Jule Holland sax appeal, will, with the BBC Big Band, make for a great Sunday at Medina Theatre. Elsewhere on the Sunday, we have a great start to the day with the Karen Sharp Quartet at Key Arts, and over the weekend, and I am looking forward to Nick Page's Isle of Sweet Part 2 as he has written new compositions, which will be debuted on the evening. We have young trumpet star Freddie Gavita providing a rousing finish to Friday's programme, while a solo piano concert from Andrew McCormack provides the perfect way to ease into Saturday's programme. Tickets are available from the County Press in Pyle Street, Newport.
We have a prostate cancer evening at Thursday, April the 19th at Newport Football Ground. The evening is sponsored by the Isle of Wight Prostate Cancer Support Group. The Isle of Wight has the highest incidence of prostate cancer in Great Britain. Is prostate cancer a concern to you or one of your family? Please consider coming along and you'll be very welcome. The telephone number is 407 662.
Following the Royal British Legion branch meeting at 2 p.m. on Tuesday in St Peter's Hall, Seaview, representatives of Action on Hearing Loss will be in attendance. This will be at about 3 p.m. Residents can have a hearing screening free of charge. Those screenings aim to give anyone over the age of 18 an opportunity to have their hearing checked by trained volunteers.
And Friday the 10th of August at 7 p.m. we have the Magic of Motown Under the Stars. celebrate the sound of a generation and reach out. To buy tickets, visit jackupthe80s.co.uk.
And some more news now. A weekend of landslips around the island. Another landslip has taken place at East Cowes Esplanade. The latest movement saw at least 6,000 tonnes of earth crash onto the road overnight on Saturday and into Sunday morning, according to a local councillor. The slip measured around 30 foot long and followed an earlier movement in 2014 when a section of the esplanade was closed. East Cowes councillor Carl Love warned people to stay away from the site of the landslip. He says it goes right back into the woods. There are lots of dog walkers in the woods and they should keep clear because it is clearly dangerous and still moving. Other parts of the island have been hit by landslips in recent days, including the promenade between Colwell and Totland and Bembridge, which was caught on camera. Ollie Frost, 26, from Seaview, was walking along the path past the Crab and Lobster pub on Saturday when he saw the rocks begin to fall. He filmed huge tree roots and rocks tumbling down onto the path.
And the Heads pledge to community. A new leader has been appointed at the Bay Church of England School, Sundown. The new head of school, Nick Cousins, will work alongside the primary head of school, Sharon Johnson, under the direction of executive head teacher Duncan Mills. The Bay will be delivering education for children aged 11 to 16 from September. Mr Cousins, who has more than 20 years' experience in the education sector, is the assistant head teacher at Porchester Community School. He said, having been brought up on the south coast, I know the Isle of Wight really well, and growing up I was able to see Ryde from my bedroom window. My aim is to provide the community with a school they can once again be proud of, and more importantly, it is essential that children of Sundown are provided with the high quality education they deserve. Information evenings for parents and carers will be held during the summer term when they will be able to meet Mr Cousins.
The Island Riding Centre in Newport is now associated with the Riding for the Disabled Association, RDA. The centre, off Staples Road, Newport, has gained the RDA's accessibility mark. It has access for wheelchair users with a mounting ramp and a new facility designed with recommendations from the RDA. Manager Tyan Hughes said, "We were already teaching riders with minor physical and learning disabilities, but hope to expand this. The centre has holiday accommodation suitable for disabled people."
Red Funnel Ferry gets £3 million makeover. The Red Eagle has landed. The Red Funnel ship has returned to service with a new look, following an extensive £3 million interior refit. The ship's interior has been brought up to date with contemporary look and more internal seats. The refit was carried out by Solent Marine specialists Trimline SMS and Wight Shipyard and involved the replacement of passenger accommodation on B deck, the fabrication and fitting of two new stylish public lounges on A deck and new outside viewing space on AA deck. The two main passenger areas on B deck have been completely replaced with modern seating and new lighting, and there is an upmarket pet lounge on A deck and a purpose-built signature lounge. High capacity Wi-Fi, enlarging points for phones, tables and laptops, air conditioning and digital entertainment are now available, and CCTV has also been installed throughout the ship to improve security. The ship has a new food galley and for entertainment 35 LED screens showing the vessel's position, local points of interest and real-time travel information for road, rail and coach services have been fitted.
And now news in brief. Freshwater Independent Lifeboat was called to help a lone yachtsman off the southwest coast of the island on Monday. The lifeboat was called by Coast Guards at 7:55 a.m. to go to the aid of a sailor who had a medical problem. The lifeboat towed the 12-metre yacht to Bembridge Harbour. In praise of Waverley, the Paddle Steamer Preservation Society will host its annual Isle of Wight meeting tomorrow, Saturday, at East Cowes Town Hall at 2 p.m. National Chairman Paul Semple will talk of the influence of Waverley, celebrating 40 years of visits to the Solent. And a reunion. AJS Wight's reunion will be held at the Island Sailing Club Cowes on Wednesday, May the 16th at noon.
And so it's wishing you a very happy weekend. It's cheerio for now from Barry.
And from Linda, hoping you can get out and enjoy this lovely weather for a change.
Thank you.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition.
Hello. A few weeks ago on In Touch, Peter Wight and three men explored the impact of their blindness on their sense of being a man. Well, tonight, women get their turn at trying to pin down what it means and how it feels to be a blind woman. Three blind women join me on this rather rocky terrain. We are all around the same age and stage of life, spanning mid-30s to mid-40s. Sam Latif is married with 3 children, and Kerry Campbell in Glasgow is married and has 2 children, while Karina Jones, who's also here in the studio, and I are both single and dating. Yes, we are we, Karina?
We are.
Now, Karina and Sam, you two are alike as you both lost your sight in your teens, and Kerry and I are paired in that we've both been blind since very early childhood. If I could ask you, Kerry, which do you put first when describing yourself? Are you a blind woman, or are you a woman who's blind, or C, none of the above?
Oh, I can honestly say I probably have no preference. I didn't like being known as the blind girl at school, I can tell you that, but I've probably come full circle from that now, even thinking, well, to be honest, they're both equal parts of my identity. Coming from roundabout Glasgow in the west of Scotland, I do sometimes now hear, watch out for the blind woman. I don't like that. Don't like that at all. And I do think, when did I go from being the blind girl to the blind woman? So either a woman who is blind or a blind woman, I don't mind.
And what about for you, Karina?
Yeah, I would say woman who happens to have a visual impairment. My identity as a woman is definitely first. Having said that, people who I'm friends with and who I work with, because I refer to myself as Blindy, will just call me Blindy, and I'm fine with that.
Really? Yeah. What, is that like a nickname?
Yeah.
Like Blindy is a nickname?
The last job I did, one of the actors, and he'd say, oh, Blindy, and he had a toe amputated, so I'd call him Limpy.
I mean, but do you think that the woman first thing for you is somewhat of a result of having some sight into your teens? Because you did, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's a backlash, because I don't like being referred to as the blind one. As I was growing up, it felt like that always came first in my identity, and it's something that I've striven to make sure it's secondary.
And Sam Latif, you have sisters who are sighted you're very close to. Do you feel you identify as a woman any differently from them?
I'm different because I'm blind. I learn to do things differently, but there's things that are important to me like they are any other woman as well. You know, as a woman, if you look good, you feel good, you're on top of the world, and I think that applies to women who are blind and women who are not blind.
When you talk about looking good there, what sort of role did your sisters play in how you kind of present to sighted people?
My sisters and cousins are my trusted advisors when it comes to looking good. Everything from top to toe, from my scarf to my toes, from my shoes. They help me to buy the clothes, they help to style me over the years, so I've got a really good rapport with them when it comes to me looking and feeling good like a woman.
I know that my perception of how I look is based very much on other people's feedback. So, Kerry, how do you make those decisions about how you present to the world?
I'm exactly the same. I think I also have a group of people that I trust, and it takes a while to get into that group. Sometimes I will test new people and see what kind of comments I get.
Do they know they're being tested?
No, they don't. Not until afterwards. And then I'll say, oh, you passed. You got really good compliments on those things you picked me. I have also just recently started using a personal shopper and found one that I trust there, so that's really helpful as well. I don't like my legs, and so I don't like to wear things that are tight around my legs, but she did talk me into buying a straighter dress, and I had lots of good feedback on it. So things like that maybe I would have told my friends where to go if they had suggested. I was more able to take from her.
I think I'm completely opposite, actually, to Sam and Kerry, because it's really important to me to choose my own clothes and to make my own decisions about them. I'll ask other people for feedback, but it's kind of really important as part of my identity that I choose what I wear.
I guess, that's part of what I'm getting at here, is the way in which we perceive ourselves is reliant on how we're perceived by others. So looking back, when it comes to being found attractive, how have other people's reactions to you affected your sense of being a woman? Kerry, you had quite a formative experience at school where boys were talking about you in a particular way. What happened there?
Yeah, so I think when I was early teens, I kind of just always assumed, when I get a boyfriend and when I meet someone, thinking ahead to growing up. And then when I was maybe about 15 or 16, I was at a party and a boy was flirting with me. I can't even remember who now. I just overheard a couple of his friends saying to him, "That's really sick. What are you doing? That girl's blind. Why are you flirting with her?" And just then, I think it just kind of for the first time hit me that maybe this isn't going to be as easy as I thought. Maybe I'm not going to be seen equally with the other girls in school. I wasn't going to be someone that was maybe worthy of being attracted to, or someone that you should be attracted to as a sighted man. I think it did instill a real kind of core belief about me. What I think I probably did after that was looked for other experiences that reinforced that.
And how did that affect you?
I think it made me shyer than I would want to be. I still think that. I think that if I had been fully sighted, I'd be naturally more extrovert than I am, and that's because, that's a lot of different reasons apart from this issue. It's about being able to get into conversations, start conversations with people, but also I think this experience and other similar ones, they did affect my confidence for a while, and it wasn't maybe till quite a bit through university when I'd met a lot of different diverse people and had more experience of making new friends and realising that there were people from many different backgrounds and experiences out there that I started to grow in confidence again.
Karina, your sight loss in your teenage years made you want to stand out and be noticed.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
When I became visually impaired, I felt attitudes changed to me as if it was kind of pity and stuff from the teachers, and I felt completely desexualised as a visually impaired woman, and I still feel that today. Often people with disabilities are desexualised, and I kind of fought against that and kind of over-sexualised myself. The way I dressed, the way I look, I just went completely over the top. My kind of idol was Marilyn Monroe, so I just wanted to look like her and be as overtly sexual as possible. I would rather people make horrible comments to me than the sort of, bless.
I'm really interested in knowing what it was that made you feel like you were desexualised, and how old were you when this was happening? Because that seems like a fairly mature realisation for a teenager.
As Kerry was saying, about, there's a blind woman, you don't flirt with her. There's kind of a protectiveness from people that comes in, women and men. If they think, you're visually impaired, they feel sometimes a need to protect you. A man maybe wouldn't come and chat you up because he would feel as if the power balance was different. He could see you, but you couldn't see him. And I really felt, especially growing up, that a lot of men wouldn't come onto you because they'd just feel abusive in some way. And I've heard men say that to me before. I've had relationships with men and women, and I feel that there is no difference about how you kind of get treated when you're with a woman and when you're with a man. When it's starting, not when the relationships carried on.
What do you mean by that?
If I've been out and I've met a woman, that power imbalance, it still feels like it's there. Not wanting to come on to you as someone who can't see may feel like a really weird thing, and that's not just for men, it's for women too.
This feeling invisible as a woman, couldn't this be a positive thing in that, that means we're not kind of being objectified in a way that many women would really welcome?
Absolutely, and I think that now that is a positive, but it's about other people being your mirror, and to have positive reactions made me feel more feminine and more attractive as someone who hasn't really got much confidence about the way I look. It's really quite difficult to get a sense of my physical self. It used to be, and now I feel much stronger in that. I have that within me.
What about for you, Sam? To attract attention, is that attention important to you?
I think attention is important to everyone. I mean, what Kerry and Karina have said, I've probably experienced somewhat of what they're talking about. I mean, I'm first generation Scottish, Pakistani. In the Asian culture, it's very common for young girls to be paired up with a match from within the community. And quite often a family would introduce one another to meet the opposite sex to see whether they would be a good marriage partner for you. And this is something that your family would arrange with another family. But when I was growing up, I felt that my family were uncomfortable approaching anyone for me because they thought that maybe I was a damaged good.
Oh, really?
Not that they felt that I was a damaged good. It's not what our family thought, it's what other people thought, what other families thought. So a few times a lot of men would be interested potentially for a marriage proposal, but their families would not be interested, their mothers wouldn't be interested because they didn't want their son to marry someone who was blind. It was very interesting because there was this sort of unspoken thing of my family not wanting to approach another family, but if somehow someone did show it an interest, that individual found it quite hard to convince his family that I would be suitable for him because their mum and dad didn't want them to marry someone who was blind.
Were they specific about that being the reason, or is this an interpretation that you have placed on it?
In one case it was very specific, yes. I mean, the guy I was talking with overtly told me. And then there was other cases where, you would have to be blind not to see that was the case. Ironically, many Asian women who are married to these Asian men that were too good to marry me, they're now, looking after these women.
And clearly you did get married. Was it part of that process that you described, or was it completely outside of that?
It was completely outside. I had always expected to marry an Asian guy because I was Asian as well. But what happened was I bumped into Joe, who's Scottish, he's white.
What, you literally bumped into him?
No, we met through a mutual friend of ours. He was very interested in who I was, and then,
You got together.
We got together. Yeah. It was interesting because on one hand, you could say it was tragic to find a situation where, your own community thinks you're not good enough for them. But then on the other hand, to kind of move on from that and show them that you can be blind and you can be married and you can be happy.
We're very happy for you. Yeah. Yeah. Karina and I, who are still kind of... Karina alluded to it a little bit earlier. What I found looking back is that I've often existed in a way where I felt my gender was of no consequence, but not in a good way. I mean, it is something that women are looking for, but for it to be a positive thing. But for me, it wasn't. For example, I used to work in a very male-dominated industry, and often I'd be aware of the men taking my blindness into consideration, but not my feelings as a woman. There'd be discussions going on around me about relationships with other women. They might talk about their wives or girlfriends, but in a way that sort of excluded me and didn't make any reference to me, being a woman. I felt quite outside of those conversations. I just wondered about this thing of gender neutrality. Karina, do you feel that your gender is somehow cancelled out by your blindness?
I feel it can be until someone meets me. I don't know. I just think it's maybe because sometimes I can dress provocatively and stuff. I think it's out there, and I suppose that I fight against it because I don't want to be seen as not a woman, just someone gender neutral who's blind.
What about you, Kerry? Have you encountered that?
Not maybe in quite the same way that you're talking about, but I think that for me, what I would say is that being a woman hasn't really put up any barriers for me. So that's what I think, looking back on my life. It hasn't stopped me going into the profession that I want to go into or doing what I want to do. What has probably put up more barriers is my blindness. those are things that I've had to overcome and find ways around, whereas being a woman hasn't been. For example, I have a lot of beliefs about feminism in terms of equality in the workplace and being able to make a choice between staying at home or working. But yet the converse of that is I potentially could have really struggled to work, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm blind and I'm facing the unemployment statistics of people who are blind. So my gender just hasn't been so prominent in terms of the choices that I've been able to make.
We are actually all quite unusual because the rate of unemployment is so high amongst visually impaired people. It is at about 75 to 79%, and all of us here are employed, so we are quite lucky. Sam, for you, how much is your employment wrapped up in your identity as a woman?
It's very important. It's something that I enjoy doing. I can work, I do work, and I get, so much satisfaction knowing that I'm working and I'm able to contribute to society, to my family, to my children. If I didn't work, I sometimes think things would be a lot harder. I mean, I already find actually some of the tasks of traditionally being a woman, like staying at home, looking after the children, taking them to school, doing baking with them, I find all those tasks impossible to do independently. I can't drive the kids to school. I can't bake well either. If I didn't work, then I would still be needing help to do that. So knowing that I can actually go to work and contribute financially gives me a big kick.
That's really interesting. And Karina, what about for you?
I think as a feminist, I want to work and I need to work. It really adds into my sense of worth and value as an individual, as a person. And it's something that I need to do for me, and I think it's really difficult with the unemployment rate being so high amongst visually impaired people. If I don't work for a while because I'm an actor, sometimes it's quieter, then I feel my confidence going. Part of work is it keeps my confidence high.
As blind women, I'd say that employment is by no means a given, and in the same vein, Nori's having a family. So Sam and Kerry, you've both kind of done both of those things. Can I ask, was any part of having children for you about confirming your identity as a woman? Let's go to Kerry on this first.
Not consciously, no. I think I always had a thought and a belief and a dream maybe that I would have children, so it did fulfil what I'd always wanted to do. In terms of being a woman, though, the interesting thing is that I think some of the traditional female roles that Sam mentioned earlier, like, well, in this case, changing nappies, looking after the baby, people in the hospital and in the very early days after that would automatically look to my husband and think that he was going to do those roles because I couldn't see. So that kind of traditional role of the woman was turned on its head in our situation, and the fact that he didn't know one end of a baby from another, sorry Alex if you're listening, but before we had children, was completely immaterial. It was the fact that he had a bit of vision that was the primary factor there.
Kerry, in the context of this discussion, because I don't want to sound like your therapist, but how did it make you feel when people looked to your partner or your husband as the primary caregiver when you didn't know one end of a baby from another?
I don't know if it was just the rush of hormones after having a baby. I've probably never felt so vulnerable, which is a word I don't like, in my life. And some of the things that they were saying, for some reason I started to think, oh, maybe they're true. Maybe I'm not going to manage to change a nappy. And they would say, oh, do you have stairs in your house? How are you going to climb stairs with a baby? Now, I'd been climbing stairs for 32 years before I had a baby. And I found myself thinking, oh, how am I going to climb the stairs with a baby? Quite a dangerous time to make those kind of comments. And I would love for all midwives to hear this, because I think they just have to be so careful and take into account the way that all new mothers are feeling, and then multiply that by 100.
I'd like to ask the same question to you, Sam. Was your choice to be a mother, was that about at all confirming your identity?
Just like Kerry, I think I always had a dream to have children. I always wanted children. I think that's part of just trying to be normal. And you have to sometimes do extraordinary things just to be normal when you're blind. And, when you have children and you're blind, it does require extraordinary new skills that you need to learn as a blind mum.
Can I pick up on something you said a bit earlier, and you're talking about, skills that you have. I get the sense from what you were saying that one of those is asking for help, because you've talked about how independent you are, and then how you've had to ask for help and would need help to do the things that you do as a mother. Was that difficult, and how do you feel about that?
I was very lucky. In contrast to Kerry's experience in the hospital, we had an amazing nurse, Debbie, the first time round when Adam was born. I had my own dedicated nurse who was there to help me take the pressure off and teach me how to handle a newborn. And my husband as well, Joe played a huge role here. For me, it was very, very important for some reason to breastfeed my children, and I did breastfeed all 3 of them, but I could not for the life of me latch them on. I struggled for about 3 months, and I would always ask for help, but in the end it was my husband. Like, Joe became the skilled latcher on her.
Something he never thought he'd be, I bet.
And it wasn't, I didn't feel bad asking for help because he's their father. He was doing something that probably no other father does. So I needed him almost for every feed time. I needed him or someone sighted around to help me latch the baby on. When you have children for the first time, it just takes you back to the beginning almost in terms of how much help you need. You've not invented your systems to help you. It's quite a steep learning curve.
Karina, you don't have any children. Is that a choice or a circumstance?
It's a choice, because I honestly can't understand why someone would have a baby if they could have a puppy. I just am not maternal at all, and have never really wanted children at all. And I don't know if that has been informed by my visual impairment, because my identity is very important to me. I don't know if in a way I would feel it was diluted somehow, that I was a woman, then a blind woman, then a mother. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to thank all my guests for being so frank. Karina Jones, Kerry Campbell and Sam Latif. And I'm sure this discussion's only the tip of the proverbial iceberg. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please do email intouch@bbc.co.uk or phone the action line on 0800 044 044, which is available for 24 hours after the scheduled broadcast. And if you'd like to hear more, there's an extended podcast of this programme from the website www.bbc.co.uk/intouch. So please do subscribe for this and future editions. I'm Lee Kumatat. The producer is Georgina Hughes. Goodbye.